Nira sat at the edge of the shining cliffs, her eyes fixed on the pale blue sky. The crystals below her feet hummed softly, glowing with faint energy. Wind passed through the tall spires of Vyrene's mountains, carrying the distant sounds of the city she was no longer a part of. She had not spoken to another person in 3 years. Her kind, the Vyrene, feared her, not because she was cruel or dangerous, but because she was different. Her body held unstable energy that shimmered around her skin when she was upset or excited. When she was young, this power scared her too. Lights would flicker, stones would shake, and sometimes things would float without warning. The elders called her a danger. The people whispered about her, a broken one, a cursed spark, stay away. So she stayed away. She lived in a small shelter carved into the side of a crystal cave, far from the city. She collected wild fruit, read old scrolls left by travelers, and watched the stars at night. She didn't cry anymore. That had stopped long ago. But she still hoped, quietly, that one day someone would see her not as a danger, but as a person. That day began like any other. Nira had just returned from gathering glowing moss to light her shelter when the sky flashed. A bright streak tore across the clouds, leaving smoke behind it. A fireball flew over the cliffs and vanished beyond the hills, followed by a distant boom. She dropped the moss. What was that? She whispered. It didn't look like a storm. It didn't sound like falling rock. It was something else, something from beyond the sky. Her heart beat faster. Curiosity pulled at her stronger than fear. She picked up her walking stick and set out across the hills. Milo groaned as he opened his eyes. Pain pulsed in his shoulder, and something warm trickled down his cheek. He blinked at the cracked glass of the pod window. Smoke filled the air. The emergency lights blinked red. System failure. He muttered, "Great." His ship had been scanning a quiet part of space when a small asteroid hit. Nothing too big, but enough to push him off course. He had tried to land on the nearest safe planet, but the systems failed before he could slow down. Now he was somewhere unknown and alone. He pushed open the pod hatch and climbed out. His leg hurt, but it held. Round him, strange blue trees swayed in the wind. The ground sparkled with soft crystal dust. This planet, wherever it was beautiful and empty, or so he thought. He grabbed his small pack and began walking. If the ship's beacon still worked, rescue might come. But he couldn't stay by the pod. The smoke might attract animals, or worse. He had walked for only a few minutes when he felt a strange hum in the air, like soft music. Then he saw her. She stood at the top of a ridge, her cloak moving with the wind. Her skin was pale with a soft glow, and her eyes were wide with surprise. Hair like silver clouds floated around her face. She didn't look human. And yet, she didn't look afraid. Neither moved at first. Then she slowly stepped forward. Nira's hands trembled as she approached the strange being. He was tall, with short brown hair and clothes that looked worn. His face was hurt, blood at the side of his head. But his eyes watched her with more confusion than fear. She had never seen a creature like him. But something inside told her he wasn't dangerous. He looked lost, hurt, alone. Just like her. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small stone, one that held healing energy. She held it out carefully. He stared at her hand, then at her face. Slowly, he stepped closer. He didn't take the stone, but he didn't back away. She placed the stone near his wound. A soft light grew between them. The cut on his cheek closed. Slightly, he touched it, surprised. His eyes widened, then softened. "Thank you," he said quietly. She didn't know the words, but she understood the tone. She smiled. Milo couldn't believe it. This alien, whoever she was, had helped him. She didn't speak his language, but her actions were clear. She wasn't a threat. She was kind. He pointed at himself. "Milo," he said. She tilted her head. Then slowly, she pointed at herself. "Nira." He repeated it. "Nira." She nodded. Then she pointed toward the distant hills. Then at the dark smoke rising from the wreck. She looked concerned. He understood. "Yeah," he said. "My ship." Nira looked at him, then nodded again. She turned and began walking, signaling for him to follow. He hesitated, but staying alone didn't seem wise. So he followed. They reached a small cave lit with glowing moss. Inside were blankets, water, and dried fruit. Simple, but safe. Nira helped Milo sit, then handed him food. He accepted it gratefully. They sat in silence for a while. Nira studied him. Milo looked around the cave. He had crash-landed on a strange planet. His ship was broken. He was injured, far from home. But beside him sat an alien woman, feared by her people, who chose to help a stranger. Milo looked at her and smiled. For the first time since the crash, he didn't feel afraid. Dot and Nira, sitting across from him, felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The fire in Nira's cave crackled softly. It gave a warm glow to the crystal walls. Outside, the sky had turned a deep violet. Two moons hung over the hills, one full and silver, the other thin and blue. Milo sat on a smooth stone, eating the dried fruit Nira had given him. It tasted strange, sweet, and sharp at the same time, but it filled his stomach. He hadn't eaten in nearly a full day. Nira sat nearby, quiet, her hands resting in her lap. She watched him with curious eyes. Her energy shimmered faintly across her skin, like soft light moving underwater. Neither of them knew the other's language, but something unspoken passed between them, understanding. Milo pulled out a small pad from his pack. It was cracked, but still worked. He tapped a few buttons and drew a simple picture, a tiny spacecraft falling from the sky. Smoke behind it. Then he showed it to Nira. She looked at the picture, then at Milo, and pointed to it. You came from sky. He didn't understand the words exactly, but the tone and gesture made sense. He nodded. Yes, from space. He drew a star, a planet, and a tiny ship again, then pointed at himself. Milo, human. Nira stared at the pad, then gently took it from him. With slow fingers, she drew a figure, a tall person with glowing hands. Then she circled the figure and drew a small building far away. She pointed at herself. She didn't need to say anything. Milo understood. She was alone, set apart. His smile faded slightly. He took the pad back and drew two figures standing side by side. One glowing, one plain. Then he looked at her and smiled. Friends. Nira blinked. Then slowly, she smiled back. While Milo rested, Nira stepped outside. She looked toward the sky. A quiet fear touched her heart. When she used her energy to help him earlier, she had felt something strange, a strong pulse of light inside her. She had learned to hide her energy for years. It scared her people. But today, for the first time, she had used it not to protect herself, but to help someone else, and the power inside her had responded. Had someone felt it? A faint buzzing sound reached her ears. Her eyes sharpened. A scout drone had hovered in the distance, watching the smoke trail from Milo's crash. The city had noticed. Soon, others would come. Nira stepped back into the cave, her breath fast. Milo looked up. What is it? She couldn't explain. Instead, she grabbed a piece of crystal and drew a small flying machine. Then, with sharp lines, she drew figures chasing them. Milo stood slowly. They're coming, she nodded. He took a breath and checked his pack. He still had a small scanner, maybe enough to track any incoming drones. He turned it on. A soft beep confirmed. It still worked. A red dot blinked near the cave. Milo pointed. We need to move. Nira nodded again. She grabbed a bundle of food and a cloak. Milo tightened his boots, wincing slightly at the pain in his leg. Still, he stood strong. They stepped into the cold night. Heading deeper into the hills, they walked for hours. Nira led the way, moving swiftly through narrow paths and rocky slopes. Milo followed as best he could, limping slightly but never falling behind. The moons lit the way, casting long shadows on the crystal ground. After a while, they reached a narrow canyon hidden between tall cliffs. Nira motioned for silence. At the end of the canyon stood an old stone wall, cracked, overgrown, but still standing. She placed her hand on a small crystal embedded in the rock. It lit up with her touch. The wall opened silently, revealing a hidden passage. Milo stared. In amazement. What is this place? Nira turned to him and simply said, safe inside. The air was cooler. Crystals grew along the walls, lighting the path with soft blue light. The tunnel opened into a large underground chamber. Old tables, stone benches, and broken tools lay scattered around. A strange mix of science and history filled the room. This was a learning place, Nira explained, her voice low. She walked over to a dusty table and lifted an old device. She wiped it clean and placed it before Milo. He leaned in. It looked like a projector, ancient but advanced, with a spark of energy from her fingers. Nira turned it on. A glowing image floated in the air, varying symbols, drawings of stars. Strange energy patterns, and but human, Milo's eyes widened. Wait, that's my kind. Nira's face showed quiet surprise. She hadn't looked at this record in years. But now, with Milo here, it made sense. Long ago, the Viren had seen beings from beyond their stars. They had watched from afar. Some believed those beings were dangerous. Others believed they were peaceful. The council had hidden this knowledge, feared it. But now, one of them had fallen from the sky. Not to fight, not to rule, but to survive. And Nira had helped him. She looked at Milo. You are not first. He nodded slowly. Maybe not, but I'm here now. A soft beep echoed through the chamber. Milo checked his scanner. Drones getting close. Nira moved quickly, closing the hidden door behind them. They had a little time, but not much. They needed a plan, while Milo rested again. Nira walked through the old chamber. She touched broken machines, dusty shelves, and dim screens. This place had once been full of learning. Now it was a forgotten. Ruined. She wondered. What if the knowledge here could help him go home? What if her strange energy wasn't a curse, but a key? She turned to him. We fixed your ship. Milo looked up. Can we? Nira gave a small smile. Try. Outside, the drone passed over the hills. Still searching, but deep inside the old learning hall, something new had begun. Not just the meeting of two beings, but the start of a bond that could change both their worlds. The air inside the old learning hall was still and cool. Tiny blue lights shimmered along the crystal walls, casting soft shadows. Milo sat on a stone bench, his back resting against the wall. His legs still ached, but the pain had faded. Beside him, Nira studied a strange circular device made of glass and metal. For hours, they had been working in silence. Milo repaired what he could with tools from his pack. He fixed wires, cleaned dust, and powered up screens that hadn't worked in years. Nira used her energy to activate systems too old for machines alone. Together, they brought the forgotten room back to life, and with each small success, they grew closer. Milo had learned to understand Nira's simple words and gestures, and Nira had started to laugh, a quiet, warm sound that echoed through the chamber like music. It was the first time she had laughed in years, but peace never lasted long. A sudden beeping sound broke the silence. Milo checked his scanner. Drone. He said, voice tense. Coming this way. Nira stood quickly. Her calm eyes narrowed. We must hide. She turned toward the far end of the room and moved a crystal panel aside, revealing a narrow tunnel. Follow, she whispered. Milo didn't ask questions. He grabbed his pack and limped after her. Above ground, Devirian seeker drones hovered silently. Their silver shells reflected the light of the twin moons. They scanned the land with blue lights. Watching for energy signals, one drone paused. It detected something, a faint energy pulse, buried under rock. A signal from the outcast. It sent a message back to the city. Nira and Milo moved through the narrow tunnel. The crystal floor cooled beneath their feet. The air smelled of stone and earth. Nira led the way, using her soft glow to light the path. Where does this go? Milo asked quietly. Old forest, she replied. Far from watchers? Milo nodded. Good. As they walked, he noticed drawings carved into the walls. Stars, hands reaching for light. A strange shape like a tree, but with glowing roots. It was a story, told without words. Is this your history? He asked. Nira touched the wall gently. Truth, forgotten. Milo felt something stir inside him, a quiet sadness. This place was more than a shelter. It was a memory of what her people once were: open, curious, brave. Not afraid. And now, because of fear, they hunted their own. Hours later, they stepped into the crystal forest. Tall, clear trees sparkled in the moonlight. The air was filled with soft humming, not from insects, but from the trees themselves. Energy moved through them like song. Milo stared in wonder. It's beautiful. Nira smiled. This forest is old. No one comes here now. They found shelter beneath a thick root, where the trees bent to form a hollow. Nira lit a small fire, using her energy to warm the air. Milo leaned back and sighed. I never thought I'd meet someone like you, he said softly. Nira looked at him. Someone like me is always alone. Not anymore, he replied. They shared a quiet meal. Then, under the soft glow of the forest, Nira told him stories in her simple words, of the city above, of the time before fear, and of how her power first appeared. I was small, she said. One day, I touched a light crystal. It broke. Her hands trembled slightly. After that, no friends, no home. Milo reached out and placed his hand near hers. Not touching, just close. You have a friend now, he said. She looked at him, eyes shining. Yes, she whispered, I do. But danger was not far behind. At the edge of the forest, a figure stood. It was a Viren, tall, cloaked, holding a metal staff. His eyes glowed with light, and his face was marked with silver lines. His name was Ral, and he had once been a student of the old knowledge, like Nira, but he had chosen a different path. He now served the city. He had tracked the signal here. He stepped into the forest, his staff scanning the ground. The energy trail was faint, but it was hers. Nira was near. He paused. He remembered her from long ago. Not the outcast people feared, but the girl who asked questions no one dared to ask. The girl who once saved a wounded animal and hid it in her robe. He tightened his grip on the staff. He had come to bring her in. That was his task. But in his heart, something hesitated. Morning came gently. Light passed through the crystal leaves above, casting rainbow colors across the forest floor. Milo woke to the sound of soft humming. He turned and saw Nira, standing a few feet away. Her hands raised toward the trees. Light flowed from her. Fingers, gentle, steady. The trees responded, their hum growing warmer. She was not just part of the forest. She was connected to it. When she returned to the shelter, Milo looked at her with new eyes. You're not dangerous, he said. You're special. Nira's smile was small but bright. Not everyone sees. Well, they should, he said. A soft rustle made them both freeze. Someone was near. Nira stood and faced the sound. From between the trees, the cloaked figure stepped out, tall and calm. Ral, Nira whispered. Milo rose slowly. Who is he, my friend? She said. From before. Ral looked at her. You should not be here. Nira's voice was firm. I helped someone, like we used to believe. Ral's eyes moved to Milo. A human, yes, Nira said, and he is not the first. Ral was silent for a moment. Then, to their surprise, he lowered his staff. I will not call the others, he said, but you must be careful. The council fears you still. Why are you helping us? Milo asked. Ral's eyes were sad. Because once, I believed in truth, and I still do. He turned and began to walk away. Go deeper. Find the old place. It may hold more than stories. Nira stepped forward. Thank you. Ral paused. Show them what they have forgotten. Then he vanished into the forest. Milo turned to Nira. What old place? Nira looked toward the far hills. Her voice was steady. The heart of the forest, she said, where energy was born. Milo nodded. Let's go. Together, they gathered their things. The hunt had begun, but so had something greater. Not just survival, but the search for truth, and maybe the chance to change everything. The forest grew thicker as Nira and Milo moved deeper into the crystal woods. The trees here were taller and older, their trunks shining like glass and their branches woven high above into a bright green ceiling. The soft hum of energy surrounded them, a quiet song that made the air feel alive. Nira's steps were sure and calm. Milo followed, careful not to stumble over the roots that curled like silver snakes. On the ground, this place feels different, Milo said softly, looking round. Nira nodded. The heart is close. Milo did not ask what the heart was exactly, but he could feel it too. A power growing stronger with every step. Suddenly, the path opened into a wide clearing. At its center stood a giant tree unlike any other. Its trunk was wide and twisted, glowing with soft blue light. From its roots, veins of shining crystal stretched out, spreading through the ground like a living web. This is the heart of the forest, Nira said. Milo walked closer, fascinated. The air here was warm and full of energy. He reached out to touch one of the glowing roots, and a gentle pulse ran through his fingers. It's like the tree is alive, Milo said in wonder. It is, Nira replied. The forest breathes here. This tree holds the power of our world. Milo looked at her, surprised. You mean the energy you use? Nira smiled. Yes, it comes from the heart. But long ago, people forgot how to listen. She knelt by the tree and placed her hands on its glowing bark. Her energy flowed into it, brightening the light. The tree seemed to respond, and the hum grew louder, like a song rising in the air. Milo sat beside her, watching in silence. For a moment, the world felt peaceful. The fear, the dangers, all seemed far away. But then, a distant sound shattered the calm. A sharp crack of branches. Voices. Nira stood quickly, eyes scanning the trees. They found us, she said. Milo rose, steadying himself. From behind the thick trunks, the same cloaked figures stepped into the clearing. Their eyes glowed with cold light. They were Varian hunters, sent to capture Nira and bring her back to the city. You should not be here, the leader said, his voice hard. The council demands your return. Nira looked at Milo, then back at the hunters. I am not your prisoner, she said firmly. I choose my own path. The hunters raised their staffs, ready to attack. Milo stepped forward. Wait, he said, his voice steady. Let's talk. The hunters hesitated. Milo raised his hands. I am a visitor from another world. I mean no harm. The leader's eyes narrowed. Why do you protect her? Milo looked at Nira, then back at the leader. Because she saved my life, and because, he added quietly, I believe there is more to this world than fear. The leader looked uncertain. His staff lowered slightly. Nira stepped beside Milo. The heart of the forest shows us the truth. Not danger, not hate. The hunters looked around the clearing, the glowing tree lighting their faces. One of them, younger than the rest, stepped forward. Can we see this truth? He asked. Nira nodded. Yes, but you must listen slowly. The hunters lowered their staffs and gathered around the tree. Nira placed her hands on the trunk again. Milo watched as light spread from her fingers into the tree. The hum grew louder, filling the clearing. Images appeared in the air, memories of the past. The hunters saw their people once free and curious, sharing knowledge with others beyond their stars. They saw how fear had crept in and divided them, turning old friends into enemies. They saw Nira, as a child, glowing with light and hope. They saw Milo's ship crashing and Nira's hand healing him. The vision ended with the heart tree shining, brighter than ever, a symbol of unity and strength. Silence fell. The leader lowered his head. We have been blind. Nira smiled softly. It is not too late. Milo placed a hand on the leader's shoulder. Together, we can build a better future. The hunters nodded slowly, their fear replaced by understanding. Nira turned to Milo, hope shining in her eyes. We are not alone, she said. And never will be, Milo replied. The heart of the forest had changed everything. After the moment of silence in the forest clearing, something changed. The Varian hunters who had once come with weapons now lowered their staffs completely. Their eyes showed surprise and a new feeling. Hope. Nira stood tall, her glowing energy soft but steady. Milo stood beside her, feeling a strong bond growing between them and the others. We have been afraid for too long, the leader said. Quietly, our city council does not know what we have forgotten. But now, you have shown us the truth. Nira nodded. The heart of the forest is alive. It connects us all. People, trees, energy. We can live without fear. We can learn and grow. The young hunter who had spoken before smiled. I am Kale. I will help you. Milo smiled back. We need to fix my ship and find a way for me to return home. Maybe your knowledge can help. Kale's eyes brightened. There's a place in the city, a hidden lab, old and full of machines. It may have what you need. Nira looked at Milo. We must go. But the council will not welcome us. Milo stood, ready. Then we go carefully. The journey back to the city was quiet but tense. Nira, Milo, Kale, and the small group of hunters moved through the forest, avoiding the main roads and patrols. They knew the council would send guards to find Nira and stop them at night. Milo showed the group how to use a scanner to detect drones and ships. Nira used her energy to shield their path, bending light and sound to hide them. During these moments, Nira and Milo talked quietly about their worlds. Milo shared stories of Earth, of blue skies, green forests, and people who dreamed of the stars. Nira spoke of the Virene's history, their lost curiosity, and the fear that had grown like a shadow over their people. Kale listened carefully. Your worlds may be different, he said, but your hopes are the same. Milo nodded. Yes, we all want to belong, to be free. Days passed. Finally, they reached the city, a shining place of glass and metal towers, glowing lights, and floating vehicles. But to Nira, it felt cold and distant. The streets were busy with watchers, drones scanning the crowds, guards moving quickly, eyes always alert. They moved through secret paths and hidden doors until they reached the edge of the city's old district, where the forgotten lab was said to be. Kale led them to a tall building covered in vines and dust. The entrance was locked, but Nira's energy made the crystals around the door glow. Slowly, the heavy metal door opened. Inside was dark and quiet. Broken machines and cracked screens filled the room, but Milo's eyes sparkled with hope. This is it, he said. They set to work. Milo and Kale cleaned the machines and searched for parts. Nira connected with the energy systems, feeling the pulse of old power beneath the dust. Hours passed. Suddenly, a screen flickered to life, showing a map of the stars. Milo smiled. This is good. But their victory was short. The door behind them slammed open. A group of council guards stormed in. Led by a stern figure cloaked in white robes, Nira, the leader said coldly, You will come with us. Nira stood in front of Milo, her energy rising around her like a shield. We will not go, she said firmly. The guards raised their weapons. Milo stepped forward. Wait, we don't want to fight. There's a better way. The council leader looked at Milo, then at Nira. You are human, he said. Your presence here is dangerous. Milo met his gaze. Maybe, but so is fear. The council leader hesitated. Kale whispered, They fear change? Nira nodded. We must show them what the heart of the forest can do. With a deep breath, she reached out with her energy, connecting to the machines in the room. Light spread, filling the space with warmth and color. The screen showed images of the forest heart, of unity, and of hope. The guards lowered their weapons slowly, their faces softening. The council leader sighed. This changes everything. The room grew quiet after Nira's display of light and energy. The soft glow filled every corner, casting warm colors over the faces of the council guards and their leader. Milo watched closely, hoping this moment could change everything. The council leader, a tall figure with silver hair and deep eyes, slowly lowered his gaze. You have shown us a truth we have long ignored, he said in a low voice. Nira stepped forward, her glowing hands still bright. The heart of the forest is not just a place, it is a connection, a promise that fear does not have to control us. The council leader looked at Milo. And you, human, have helped bring this truth to light. Your courage is unexpected. Milo smiled softly. I only wanted to help. Kale stood beside Nira, nodding. We must rebuild what was lost, together. The leader sighed deeply and turned to the guards. Stand down. This meeting is not over, but no harm will come to you. The guards lowered their weapons and stepped back. Nira let her energy fade gently. Thank you. Milo felt a wave of relief wash over him. The tension in the room lifted, replaced by hope. But the council leader's voice grew serious again. This change will not be easy. There are many who fear what you represent, Nira. Many who believe power must be controlled. Nira nodded. I know. But hiding will not help. We must face them. The leader looked at the group with respect. Then you must prepare. Tomorrow, you will speak before the council. Milo felt his heart race. The council. All of them, yes. The leader said, this is your chance to show them a new way. That night, Nira, Milo, and Kale stayed in the old lab. Outside, the city lights flickered like distant stars. Inside, the hum of machines mixed with quiet conversation. We need a plan, Milo said. The council may listen now, but they will challenge you. Nira nodded. I will speak from my heart. Show them what I have learned, Kale added. And I will stand with you. We are not alone anymore. Milo smiled. I will help however I can. The three friends prepared, going over what they would say. They practiced together, their voices strong and steady. The next day, the great council hall was filled with the city's leaders. Tall pillars rose to the ceiling, and glowing symbols of the Virenes past lined the walls. Nira stood at the center, her energy glowing softly. Milo and Kale stood behind her. The council leader addressed the room. Today, we hear from one who has been feared and hidden, from a human who has shown courage, and from those who believe change is possible. Nira stepped forward. I was once an outcast, feared for my power, but I have learned that our strength is not in control or fear. It is in connection. The heart of the forest is alive, and it calls us to unity. She told the council about the forest, about the history they had forgotten, and about the hope that still lived in their world. Milo spoke next. I come from a world far away, but I see the same struggles here. Fear divides people, but friendship can heal. Kale shared his own story, how he had once followed the council without question, but now believed in a different future. The council listened, some with surprise, others with doubt. Questions came fast. What if this connection brings danger? How can we trust those who disobey the rules? Will the heart of the forest protect us all? Nira answered each with calm honesty. The heart is not a weapon, it is a light. It asks us to listen, to understand, and to grow. Slowly, the room's tension eased. The leaders began to see a new path. Finally, the council leader stood. You have given us much to think about, he said. We will not reject this hope. A decision was made. Nira's exile would end. The heart of the forest would be protected and studied, and humans would be welcomed as friends, not strangers. That evening, Nira, Milo, and Kale walked beneath the glowing city lights. A new chapter had begun. We did it, Milo said softly. Nira smiled. No, we started it. Kale looked to the stars. There is still much work to do, but for the first time in many years, fear no longer ruled their world. Instead, there was hope. And friendship. The city of the Virine was changing. For the first time in many years, people began to speak openly. They walked the streets with curiosity, not fear. News of Nira's return and the council's decision spread fast. Some were surprised, others were unsure, but most were filled with wonder. The heart of the forest had awakened not only its light, but also the hearts of the people. Nira walked through the city's lower district, where young Virine children played near the crystal pools. Many of them stared at her, wide-eyed and quiet. A few stepped forward, offering shy smiles. One small girl whispered, "You glow like the trees." Nira knelt and gently smiled. "That's because I listened to them." The child laughed and touched Nira's hand, not afraid. It was a simple moment, but to Nira, it meant everything. For so long, she had been feared by her own kind. Now, they reached for her. Milo and Kale worked together in the old lab. They fixed broken screens, rebuilt the ship's systems, and explored the star maps Milo had recovered. Soon you'll be able to go home, Kale said as he tightened a loose bolt. On a panel, Milo nodded, but his face was thoughtful. Yes, but it feels strange. Like I'm leaving something important behind. Kale paused, then gave a kind smile. Maybe it's not goodbye. Maybe it's just a new chapter. Milo looked out the window at the glowing city and the distant forest beyond. Maybe. Later that evening, Nira, Milo, and Kale met at the edge of the forest. The path to the heart tree had changed. It now had a gate made of crystal and light, welcoming all who wished to learn. The council had agreed to let the tree be a place of peace and learning. A new center would be built there, not for control, but for connection. Nira stood before the tree, feeling its warmth. She placed her hand on the trunk, and a soft hum spread through the air. The tree welcomed her once again. Milo stood beside her. This tree saved your people, didn't it? No, Nira said softly. It reminded them of who they truly are. Kale approached with a small crystal tablet in hand. This holds everything we've recorded. About the heart, about energy, about your ship. Milo took it, grateful. Thank you. They stood in silence for a while, the wind moving through the trees like a whisper. Then Milo spoke. I'll be ready to leave in 2 days. Nira looked at him, her eyes calm but filled with emotion. You came from the stars, and soon you'll return to them. Milo smiled gently. But I'll never forget this world. Or you? Kale looked between them. Maybe one day, more humans will come, and more variant will travel beyond. This is just the beginning. Nira nodded. Yes, a new path is open. On the final day, a small group gathered to watch Milo's ship power up. It stood in a quiet field beyond the forest, now repaired and ready for flight. Nira stood beside Milo, her long coat flowing in the breeze. Will you come back someday? She asked. Milo looked at her, then reached into his bag. He pulled out a small badge, the symbol of his space station on Earth, and placed it in her hand. I promise. He said, this world gave me more than I ever expected. I'll return, and I'll tell others about this place. Kale stepped forward and handed Milo a veering crystal, shaped like a leaf, for your journey. He said, it will guide you. Milo smiled and placed the crystal in his ship's dashboard. The engines came to life, humming gently. Before stepping inside, Milo turned back one last time. You weren't just my guide, Nira, he said. You were my friend. Nira gave a soft smile. And you were mine. Milo entered the ship. The door closed. Slowly, the craft lifted into the sky. The people below watched as it rose higher and higher until it disappeared among the stars. Weeks later, Nira stood at the heart tree, now surrounded by others. Children studied its light. Elders shared stories under its branches. Scientists and peacekeepers from both cities came to listen. Kale led a group of young Virian in learning how to feel energy, not to control, but to understand. And Nira, once feared, had become something new. A teacher, a leader, a light. She looked up at the stars each night, always wondering where Milo was now. She hoped he had reached home safely. She hoped he was telling their story, and deep in her heart, she believed they would meet again, because something greater than fear had joined them. Something simple, something strong. Friendship. The end.